Okay. Okay. I shall now invite the Prime Minister to give their speech. You can start now.
Good morning to the fellow educators and the members of the floor. This morning, I will be representing the Prime Minister, and I will be finding some points in the motion. Life-saving procedures. Life-saving procedures are procedures that will be applied by doctors to patients due to patients having congenital reasons or due to accidental reasons. Such uh, such such example of life-saving procedures are open heart surgery. Some patients also do have some morbidities or very chronic diseases that, when to be treated, be very difficult for the doctors to do, such as neurosurgery. Another point is immunity from legal action. Doctors are immune from the patient's family, who tend to sue after the patient's death, regardless of being told the surgery may be unsuccessful. However, doctors are not immune to legal action if the procedure is not considered as life-saving. Why should they be immune? Rather than taking legal actions, the doctors should be given the chance to give formal apologies to the family. Life-saving procedures have a high risk rate. So no matter what they do, doctors have a chance of failing, even if the doctors has done their best. More people will die if the doctors are not able to do that particular life-saving surgery. Surgeons will be reluctant to do this case. Surgeons will be reluctant to do this case due to them being afraid of the patient dying and being sued by the parents. Sometimes the sorry, excuse me. Sometimes the surgery will not be as effective as the doctors first thought, and this would lead to patient to have the same chance of surviving the surgery, no matter how much or how competent the doctor surgery has done. There will be still a chance for doctors to still lose the patients in the end. If the doctors are to be held by legal obligation, they are not able to do their jobs as doctors to treat other patients, and will be forced to put a lot of effort in fighting their legal rights to still be a doctor. Their career will be ruined and heavily likely never be able to be considered a legal doctor and be operate with patients. Doctors are to be considered specialist doctors to be considered a very scarce resources in the medical industry. And to take legal action is to take out a competent doctor to do their job. Any doctor who has performed life-saving surgery and the patient and if any doctor sorry any doctors who perform life-saving surgery and the patient has died, sorry, excuse me. If a illegal action would be taken at every single doctor who has performed life-saving surgery but the patient has died, the medical industry, or rather most hospitals or healthcare, would lack staff to handle many surgeries that will come after that particular surgery. Uh, that's all. I had my speech ready.
All right, thank you. How many minutes was that?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. All right. I shall now call upon the opposition leader to give their speech.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Okay. Hmm. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning. I, as the leader of opposition, would like to oppose the motion for today. We believe that doctors who performs life-saving procedures shouldn't be given immunity from legal actions against them. First, before I start to present my points, I would like to rebut some points given by the Prime Minister from the government side. He has mentioned that uh, if we put legal actions for the doctors who are performing life-saving procedures, we are letting them to put extra effort in their work. I believe that the point given by the government side is as if like they refuse to let the doctors to put extra effort in saving other people's life, because we do believe that performing life-saving procedures is actually should be done successfully because it is a doctor's responsibility. When a patient when a patient entrusts themselves and their health towards a doctor who are in charge for their surgery or any life-saving procedure that should be done against them, um, we know that the doctor should be held responsible for any action that they've done. So it would only be relevant to charge them with any legal actions for any failures that they've done. Because if we let the doctors to be immune from any legal actions, it's as if like we refuse to put any pressure for them. If we don't put any pressure for them, doctors would take the opportunity to neglect their medical duty and they wouldn't done their full best in order to save other people's life. uh, my first point, why my team believes that we should oppose this motion, why we should charge legal actions to doctors that perform life-saving procedures, is that, as what I've said before, doctors should be held responsible for their actions as the patients put their trust towards the doctor's medical knowledge. So any failure done by the doctor is due to the doctor's medical negligence, as doctors are supposed to have the medical knowledge to save a person's life. As what the first speaker from the government has said, that there are surgeries where the doctors have slim chance in saving the patients and such. However, if we don't, it doesn't mean that we should neglect the fact that as the patient or as the patient's family, we should like let the doctors to freely work any surgery upon the patient without charging any legal actions towards them. Because under the Health and Safety at Work Act
TI.
1974, I'm sorry, I would be taking that for now. I would like to finish my speech. Under the Health and Safety Act, Work Act 1974, and the subsequent Health and Safety First Aid Regulations 1981, an employer is under a statutory duty to provide first aiders in the workplace for the benefit of their employees. And the employees here we like to focus are the patients. These first aiders, or what we like to focus are the doctors, the ones who provide those first aiders, must undergo training to an approved standard in a specified list of competencies. As such, an individual who takes on this role as part of their job description could be argued to owe a duty of care to their fellow employees to render first aid. That is why the law itself says that the one who performed the life-saving procedure should undergo training. So if they fail, uh, would it mean that they are neglecting their medical duty? Only which means that it only gives more reason for the patients or the patient's family to charge legal actions towards the doctor who neglect their medical duty. Okay. And we as the patient also have our own rights for the sake of our own safety. If we give immunity for these doctors, it's as if like we don't have any rights or we don't have any voice. We don't have the rights to voice out for the sake of our own safety. Uh, I'll give you an example. If someone got hit by a car and the one who hit that person runs away, it's as if like a doctor fails to perform a life-saving procedure towards the patient, but since they know that they are protected from the law, they could take the advantage to not be held responsible for their actions. And regarding on what kind of actions or what kind of legal action that we will put for the doctors who failed to perform these life-saving procedures will be explained by my second speaker. We will focus on how we should let the doctors compensate for their wrongdoings, and we should revoke their medical license. And it will be explained by my second speaker. As I've said, in the US, in one state, the punishment for a particular violation could be a fine, while in another state, you could lose your license for doing the same thing. This law has been existed, which means that it wouldn't be relevant if you want to give immunity for the doctors who failed to perform these life-saving procedures. And with that, I would like to rest my case. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I shall now call upon Deputy Prime Minister to give their speech. Here.
Test. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
All right. Good morning to the educated and fellow members of the floor. Today I am the Deputy Prime Minister and will be giving out a few rebuttals and giving out a few points of my own. Now, first off, let me start off with a few rebuttals. So, opposition leader, she said a few things. She wrongly understood my first speaker's points. She said that doctors refuse to put extra effort into patients. This is wrong because we believe that the point is doctors, if you give them lawsuits, they are putting extra effort in the lawsuits, not in neglecting their patients. So why is this really bad? Because doctors, as we already know, is a really stressful job. You have to deal with patients, you have to deal with them socially, you have to deal with them mentally. So therefore, if you are giving them lawsuits, if you are forcing them to deal with buying lawyers, with facing court time, they don't really have time to deal with the patient itself. They're starting to turn into somewhat of a convict, not really treating patients because they don't really have the time. So therefore, you wrongly understood our point. Next, she also said that on our side, we refuse to put pressure on doctors by not giving them lawsuits. So now, Miss, we really would like to tell you that doctors are already a really stressful job. Your side is not understanding the fact that doctors are also human. Mistakes happen and things like that. However, they are trained to be good doctors. They are trained to be specialists. They are trained to be people who are good with handling these kind of surgeries. Now, it's not that we refuse to put pressure on doctors, it's we understand that doctors are also humans and humans are not perfect. Humans make mistakes. Therefore, yes, we agree they should somehow be held responsible if they make a mistake. But however, legal action is not the answer. We suggest a formal apology to the victim's family. Now, why is this better than a lawsuit? Okay, let me just paint a picture for you. If you accidentally hit a cat, I know a cat isn't really comparable to human life, but this is just, let me paint a picture over here. So let's say if you accidentally hit a cat, is someone going to fine you? Is someone going to put you in jail over that cat's life? No, you should just doctors should be given a chance to retry because they've been saving countless lives. What if a specialist who has done hundreds of different surgeries, and just because he messed up one surgery, you want to take away his medical license, you want to fine him, you want to destroy his career, you want to stop him from giving the chance to help other patients out there. So that is what your side is failing to see today. Next, he also said that doctors fail is neglecting their medical duty. Now, Miss, we really don't agree because neglecting medical duty as a doctor is a really serious thing to say. Doctors are trained for 9 years, 10 years to study and become some people who save lives. Therefore, to say that they neglect their medical duty if they make a mistake, bear in mind, this is life-saving surgeries. The margins are very near between life and death for the patient. So one small move, just a tiny vein cut, just a tiny artery cut could end the patient. And these are things that can happen inside the surgery room. It's just between the doctor and the patient standing there for hours. Mistakes are bound to happen. All right? So therefore, to say that if a doctor accidentally kills a patient is neglecting his medical duty is wrong. He is a medical practitioner. He has been trained to carry out these kind of surgeries. Next, the story of someone getting hit by a car and it's the doctor hurting the person. So if someone gets hit by a car and is not responsible, that someone is actually hurting the patient. Is the doctor hurting the patient? Is the doctor hitting the patient with a car? Not really. So therefore, I feel like her story should not be taken account into this debate. Now, I'm done with my rebuttals. Let me move on to my points. The main argument for the mistakes today, also known as medical malpractice. Okay, medical malpractice is normally a big issue for people such as doctors, insurance companies, healthcare providers, and other groups. Many can argue that medical malpractice litigation is actually really inefficient. It's very time consuming, very expensive, and it takes doctors away, like my first speaker said, it takes doctors away from dealing with the actual patient itself. In addition, I also believe that medical malpractice have also spurred doctors to become afraid to take these kind of operations. For example, if he wants to conduct surgery on a person who just got hit by a lorry, because he find out that if he messes up, there are lawsuits coming against him, his career might be destroyed, he'll actually be afraid to take up these life-saving procedures. Why? He doesn't want his career to be destroyed. He doesn't want his family to not have bread and butter on the table anymore. That is why we believe that instead of just destroying someone's career by giving them fines, giving them prison time, giving them ending his medical license forever, we should just ask him to give a formal apology to the patient's family. Oh, 2 minutes. Next, I also believe that medical malpractice, another key argument for medical malpractice is also the rising cost for the litigation itself. Now, the danger of costly medical malpractice lawsuit causes doctors and hospitals to pay more for liability insurance than the healthcare of the patient itself. A Forbes report in 2016 found that 3 billion US dollars was spent in malpractice payouts on that year, adding up to one payout every 43 minutes. Imagine that is how much money that is being gone in to just pay off someone's mistake. Even though, yes, someone can argue it is life-saving. Yes, someone can argue that somebody is dying. But you are failing to understand that mistakes do happen and we should not punish them and end their careers because of these mistakes. Even though it's not small, yes, we agree. But yeah, they should not be, their career should not end at all. With that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I bid to Deputy Prime Minister. Now, I shall call upon second Deputy Leader of Opposition to present their speech.
Sir, I ended my speech.
Yes, you did.
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
You're audible.
Okay, all right. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. A very good morning to the honorable judges and all the members of the floor. I, as the deputy leader of opposition, will first like to affirm the stand of the opposition, which is that this House would not provide doctors performing life-saving procedures with immunity from legal actions. I will start by rebutting the deputy leader of the government speech. Sorry, I will start by defending my leader of opposition by saying, because the deputy minister of the government says that
Do you need a second?
The government side keeps on stressing that a formal apology is enough to cover whatever mistakes the doctors did. However, are words enough to bear the weight of a mistake? What is their mistake? The mistake can cost a life. In these life saving procedures, as the government said, there is a thin margin between life and death, which is all the more reason why the doctors should not make the mistake. They are trained professionals. They went through 10 years of training, and they still make this kind of mistakes. It should not be happening. It should not be happening. Now, this law, yes.
So we
Yes.
can both agree doctors are humans. Am I right? So is it wrong? Humans are not perfect. So on your side, you believe that humans that are trained for 10 years should not make any mistake at all. Am I correct?
That is not correct. I am saying that they should not be making these kind of mistakes in the surgery room. There is not just one doctor in the surgery room. There's sometimes 2, 3, and maybe even doctors in trainings. They are observing these sort of procedures, and they should be able to learn by the time they are performing the procedures. Doctors are humans, and humans' capacity is beyond what we know. If they they are training so much to avoid making the mistakes, and when they do make the mistakes, they should be punished for it. We're not saying that we will be ending the career, but that we will be giving out punishments because these sort of mistakes are not meant to happen. And okay, the deputy minister said that medical malpractice is time consuming, and it will take time away from the patients. If the doctors did not make this malpractice, there is no need to spend time on this. The whole reason for law is to avoid people from making this sort of mistake, is to make people more mindful of their actions and more careful. Without this law, people who are the doctors who are underqualified may think that they can go in and do this operation without thinking twice, because they know they are protected. They are protected from whatever the families of the patients may do, and therefore there will be less weight in their action. They will feel less pressure to succeed. Yes.
So opposition side today believes that doctors are entering life-saving procedures without any sense of responsibility on their shoulders. Is that what you're trying to say?
I'm saying that if they are entering this sort of procedures with less responsibility on their shoulders. You see, when there is a law enacted, people who think they have a less probability of succeeding the procedures will be less inclined to go in, whereas the people who knows they are more experienced and have a higher possibility of saving patients will be the ones to step up, and therefore the weight between these two are different. Because now, it's a difference if a experienced and highly qualified doctor becomes the one who go into this procedure, because they know they have a higher probability of success. If we remove this law, people who are, for example, an intern doctor who just got out of residentialship, they will feel like they can experiment. They can go and try it out. To them, it becomes a part of their training instead of something that saves lives. Which brings us to the opposition's point that doctors would take advantage of this immunity because they feel less pressure to succeed. Now, without hanging this pressure of lawsuit over their head, a lot of times people will not feel the need to do the need for success. Sometimes before going into these sort of procedures, the patient's family or the patient themselves will sign a consent form, and in this consent form, there will be a leash, a sort of leash against the doctor. It will be leveraging like an insurance for the patients, that if anything happens, the doctors will be liable. When they sign this form, it is saying that the doctors are affected by the law, and therefore giving the patients the security that the doctors will do everything they can for them. And I would like to end my speech by reaffirming the opposition stand, which is this House should not provide doctors performing life-saving procedures with immunity from legal actions to protect both the for the benefits of both the doctor and the patients. With this, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much. From Deputy Leader of Opposition, I call upon the government whip to present their speech. Thank you.
Hello, I hope I'm audible and clear.
Yes.
Okay. I'm starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. A very good morning, I bid to the adjudicators present today and all the members of the floor. Let me paint you a picture so that it's more clear. You're a doctor, one with 7 years of experience, in fact. You're not a newbie fresh out of college, just finished your foundation and your degree. You've done surgeries, plenty of them, hundreds in fact. But you're walking into this surgery with lots of things on your mind. The surgery itself doesn't occupy 100% space in your brain. You're thinking, what goes wrong? What if I nick an artery? What if I accidentally forget to take a cotton suture out or a cotton pad out of my patient? What if I sew him up wrongly? Will they sue me? Will this be the end of my career? Will I never be able to practice medicine again? Do you think that if you were said doctor, you would perform the surgery to 100% of your capabilities? Well, I don't think so. I'd like to move on what the leader of opposition talked about. Leader of opposition strongly believes that doctors should not be immune to having legal action taken against them. She talks about a doctor's responsibility when a surgery goes wrong. Despite my prime minister telling her that when a surgery goes wrong, it is more often due to mortality rates and high risk factors than a doctor's professional capability. We need to remember here that we are dealing with human beings. An open heart surgery for patient A will not be exactly the same as for patient B and patient C, because patient A, B, and C have different medical histories, different comorbidities, different complications. Every case is different. Not even 7 years of medical school is enough to cover one surgery on hundreds of different types of people. The leader of opposition also went on to say something very controversial, in my opinion. She talked about how if we don't put pressure on doctors, they will neglect their ability, and this causes them to not give 100% when they are performing a surgery. Well, think about it. If you're a doctor and you're performing a surgery, you're holding a human life in your hands. You are all that stands between life and death of this patient. You are, after all, performing a life-saving procedure. Do you think that you need to have the burden of a lawsuit on your mind while you are carrying out surgery? I don't think that exactly helps you perform even better. She also went on to give a rather silly example of a hit and run. Well, let me compare and give you the differences between a hit and run case and a doctor performing a surgery. When you hit and run, you knock someone, and once you have knocked the someone, typically you run. You negate yourself of all responsibility. However, when a doctor performs a mistake, a simple mistake, no matter how small it may be, he nicks an artery. He does not run, he does not drop all his instruments and run out of the operating theater. Instead, he does everything in his ability to save said patient. So I believe your comparison of a hit and run is rather insensitive. And we are really lucky that we do not have a doctor in our presence today, because they would be thoroughly insulted. Moving on to Speaker 2 of the opposition. She said that due to the 10 years plus that doctors have a medical training, that it is all the more reason that we should take legal action towards them because they have had 10 years of said medical training. Well, keep in mind, while doctors do operate on humans, doctors themselves are human beings as well. They are not robots where they have 10 years of information implanted and encrypted into their data system, yeah? It's something you learn. It's a learning process. She also talked about how if we don't have legal actions for doctors, that hospitals will be sending their freshly interns out of college to carry out life-saving procedures. Well, my dear, let me tell you, you are sadly wrong. No matter whether you have um, no matter whether you take legal action or not, hospitals are not ever going to send a freshie to carry out a life-saving surgery. This is because the healthcare system is a system that's dedicated to the well-being of the human race. We are not going to be sending someone who knows the bare minimum about medicine to carry out a life-saving surgery. She also talked about how taking legal action doesn't mean that you're ending the person's career. Well, let me tell you something. When you sue a doctor, you are in fact saying that this doctor is incapable of carrying out his duties. This doctor is incapable of carrying out a surgery and for his patient to live. And this is completely false. You're trying to say that if you take legal action, it doesn't end a doctor's career, but in fact, it does. No hospital will ever hire said doctor again because a case that states where you have killed your patients, no matter how wrongful and false that statement may be, leaves a dark stain on the record of said doctor. The second speaker also made the big mistake of basing her whole case over intern doctors taking over just because legal action is not taken towards doctors. As I said before, a system dedicated to the well-being of the human race isn't going to put forward a doctor who knows barely nothing. She also said if they don't have lawsuits, doctors don't feel the need to give 100% to the patient. I would also like to strengthen on how my deputy leader of opposition gave an alternate decision to handling when a case goes wrong. Instead of taking legal action, a formal apology is issued to the family of said patients. This formal apology tends to give closure to the patient's family and is undeniably a better option than taking legal action on a doctor who hasn't done anything wrong. With that, I rest my case today. Never been more happier to be government. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Government Whip. We'll proceed to the next speaker. I call upon Opposition Whip to give their speech. Here.
Can you hear my voice?
Audible.
Okay. So I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Good morning to everyone and the members of the floor. I am the opposition whip, and today I am proudly, I would like to reaffirm my team's stand, which is we reject this motion, and we believe that this house should not provide doctors performing life-saving procedures immunity from legal action against them. And why do we reject this motion, and why do we oppose this motion? And I will say everything in my speech, but and I will be rebutting everything that the government has said, and also reaffirm what my team stands for. So, firstly, the prime minister said that instead of giving legal actions towards doctors, we should be just let them give a formal apology to the victims of the families. So, do you really think that formal apology is enough for their mistakes? Because mistakes in life saving procedures is very big, as they say. The patient's life is on a thin line, just like my deputy leader of opposition said. Their mistake can cost a life. The mistakes that they're doing, mistakes is still a mistake. Nevertheless, you are protected or not, you cannot deny the fact that the mistake that you're doing is going to risk someone's life. Okay, imagine if let me paint a picture. Let's say your own family member, imagine if that happened to you. Do you really think that a formal apology is enough? Do you not want to take a legal action for someone's mistake? like the government, and also they are saying that sorry, the second, they also say that uh, the second, sorry, the uh,
AI.
no, thank you. I will not be taking your eyes for now. So even if mistakes happen, they undergo training, training so that they don't do this malpractice. And the government is trying to see a way to save the doctors for their own mistake. And a formal apology as a compensation, I don't think that's enough. Where are the patients' right? Where are the patients, families' right in this thing? This is why we have a law. This is why we have a legal obligation, which is to protect the patient. And you want to talk about doctors' careers? I think that the doctors' careers only will be ruined if if they are incompetent, if they do malpractice. And the stress in this job, like the government said, the stress in this job, they spend so much time studying in medical school. The stress is actually because human is not experimental figure for doctors just to practice medical. And the leader of opposition has said that doctors should be held responsible for their actions as the patients put their trust towards the doctor's medical knowledge. And we have our rights for the sake of our own safety. And uh, the whole reason is about the whole reason for this law about law is to make sure that doctors make no mistakes and be more careful when doing procedures, and it's to protect the victim's family. And the government is trying to
AI.
enact their own sorry, I will not be taking PLI. The government is trying to enact their own law, which is not applicable with the given situation. Doctors, they tend to start practicing more tentatively, and which they often second guessing their own diagnostic abilities after getting sued. So, which is the whole point for being punished by the law, you know, and they cannot be, overconfident in in their ability, but be realistic, and I believe that only a fully qualified doctor should be in the life saving procedures. And I honestly think that the government is trying to ignore that the law the law that have been enacted against the doctors
POI.
practice. When yes,
Are you stating that when you say fully qualified doctors should only be the ones in surgeries, are you saying that fully qualified doctors, the possibility of them committing a mistake is zero?
uh, no, I'm not saying that since they have the since they have the possibility to commit a mistake. They have sorry, they have less possibilities because they are experienced. Just like the government said, the doctors, they are experienced. So we should pressure them by taking their duty more seriously with the legal charges, since they have the possibility. Uh, but the government also mentioned that doctors are humans, but that also means that they are have the possibility to commit a mistake. And I am proudly to oppose. That will be all for my speech.
All right, thank you very much. So now we will proceed to reply speeches from both of the teams. We can start with government reply speech. Here.
Am I audible?
Yep.
All right. Just a moment. Mm. All right. Good morning again to all members of the floor. So for my reply speech today, I'll be pointing out the clashes that happen in today's debate and why government should win the debate today. So firstly, from what I can see, from what government can see, we have two clashes. Number one being from opposition side being due to doctors training, quote, due to doctors training, they should be perfect and not make any mistakes. Compared to our stance, which is more relevant, is humans can make mistakes. Now, why we win in this clash is because we all know humans are not perfect. No matter how much you train, 10 years, 7 years, 9 years, you are bound to make mistakes somewhere in your life, especially if you're doing hundreds and hundreds of surgeries. Yes, someone can argue you get better. Yes, you can. Someone can argue that sooner or later your skills will get better. However, mistakes are bound to happen if you are doing that many surgeries in your career. Therefore, we believe we won this clash because mistakes are always bound to happen. The next clash that I found was lawsuit versus formal apology. Now, why formal apology wins is opposition doesn't really understand what a formal apology is. A formal apology, ma'ams, isn't really just words. A formal apology is something that the hospital has to put on their social media. It also might be something, if the case is viral enough, it has to go on the news. So your idea of a formal apology just being words and not enough to mitigate the patient or the patient's family isn't really logical, because formal apologies, if you think about it, if someone already made a formal apology and it is given out to the public, it's already tarnishing the doctor's career itself. Most patients would already not want to go to this doctor because of a formal apology. Therefore, we believe compared to a lawsuit where someone's career will be taken away, where someone's family will lose their bread and butter on the table, we believe that a formal apology is better because it's already enough, it's already sufficient to punish the doctor in a certain way. Next, they argue that mistakes cost a life. Yes, both sides agree. Government agree, opposition agrees. Mistakes cost a life. However, it's really hard, madam, to ensure that mistakes don't happen. And she also stated that fresh graduates and hospitals sending fresh graduates, and certain hospitals don't really care. Like my third speaker says, the Malaysian healthcare system is one of the best in the world. Only qualified, specialized doctors are allowed to take these life-saving procedures, not fresh graduates and not someone who just came out of university. Someone with 10, 7, 9 years of training. Yes, they are qualified, but we also believe that humans are not perfect and humans also make mistakes. With that, I rest my case. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister. Now we shall proceed to reply speech from opposition team.
Okay, I hope I'm audible. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. I would like to give the reply speech as the opposition side, but before that, I would like to emphasize the fact that the government had totally misunderstood with the stance given by the opposition side. All of the opposition speakers from the first till the third had emphasis that we acknowledge the fact that trained doctors are also humans and they have the possibility to make mistakes. We've never claimed that doctors who are trained are perfect and they shouldn't be making mistakes. But we are trying to emphasize that these trained doctors should be acknowledging the burden that they're bringing in because they are messing with someone else's life. If not being putting what been emphasized by my second speaker and also in my speech, what we're trying to say that with charging them legal actions against their malpractice, it makes them more, it gives them more pressure in order to save someone else's life. A formal apology after failing saving someone else's life in a life-saving procedure, I couldn't even find that laughable because imagine you've done a mistake. After trainings, years and years, you've done a mistake, and the only thing that you can do to compensate the family or the victims of the case is by giving them a formal apology. acknowledging your mistake just as that. So what are the actions taken for the mistakes that they've done? What are the corrections that we should put? What are the efforts that we should put against the doctors to not redo the mistake that they have done? These are why we, as the opposition side, would charge them legal actions for their mistakes. We haven't said that we will just revoke their license. We've also said that we will want the doctors to compensate by paying compensation for the actions that they've done. And this is also the clashes that clearly the government had misunderstood, or the lack of understandings with our stance. And I would like to emphasize that people, the doctors, if we give them immunity, it's as if that we are letting them to take advantages with the mistakes that they've done. They are acknowledged with the fact that, well, I am protected with the law. A formal apology would be good if I've done any mistake. We don't want these kind of doctors. We know how corrupted people could be for power. We don't want these kind of doctors to exist in the future. That's why scaring them, or like emphasizing them that legal charges are there to charge them whenever they've done wrong, can make them feel more pressure and make them take their work more seriously. And that's also why that our opposition side would disagree with the motion, and we would like to not provide immunity for doctors who fail their life-saving procedures. And with that, I rest my case. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to both of teams. Congratulations, you have just passed the first round of ITA Asasi debate. Since we are short in time, I'm just going to give a short feedback to both of teams. You both did well. Points